Shoot my hot shit still.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining me. I wanted to make this video because this is one of the most commonly purchased firearms. It's a big brand name in the industry, and I personally purchased this rifle when I was just getting into the military and just getting into shooting on my own. Brand recognition is something that people rely on when they are absence of knowledge or they're not initiated into the space. So for example, people growing up nowadays, more likely you're going to grow up with an Apple iPhone. This is for your first phone, and that's because Apple is just everywhere, and there's not there at the time there wasn't too many brands that I knew of, that because I wasn't actively looking into them, if that makes sense. I just walked to my local gun store and I saw what was on the racking, and depending on the relationship with the store, they might be very forward with certain brands. So for example, Sig Sauer is a brand that constantly has its own shelf space. It's got its own marketing literature all over the stores. So people that are going to be new into firearms and guns, They're going to see Sig Sauer all over the place. You'll see Springfield Armory now. You'll see, what's another good one? FN is still around. But for those people that just walk into the store, that might be all that they really see, minus anything that the person behind the counter wants to show you. And unless you're an internet nerd who likes to watch certain channels, which was kind of like me now, if you just go into a store to buy a firearm, especially an AR-15, you're more than likely to walk out with this particular rifle. That's my opinion, unless the person behind the counter implements their own biases on what they're showing you, but you know, that's unrelated. So what I wanted to talk about is the Dane Defense M4V7. I got it right here. Yeah. I'm sure that looks very familiar. The things I have to say about it, a lot of people I think that I have heard on the internet pretty much are singing the same tune as me, but I do have a slightly different perspective as someone that I purchased this and I didn't purchase another fully built AR-15 of any kind. The only thing that I have done after this is before I bought this, I actually built a 308 from Aero Precision. I kind of built it and tried to customize it. That was my introduction into building, which wasn't fun. And then I also just built a 300 Blackout, even less fun than doing a 308. But once I got this AR-15, I stuck with it, and the reason why is I've never wanted to be the person that spends all their money on gear. Not to say that you shouldn't spend money on gear, but I wanted to be the person who is trained with what I have, because training is everything, especially your gear will not make up for your shortcomings, especially when it comes to shooting. As someone in the military, when I do have to shoot firearms, marksmanship isn't necessarily always the main thing that you're worried about. It's maneuverability, it's concealability, versatility, all those other ITYs. It just gave me a better appreciation for my own guns, that when I have the capability to customize them to me, it just made me appreciate it more. So for example, I know a lot of people don't like our ACOGs, 4x32 ACOGs. I have an ACOG on mine. But one of the reasons why some dudes in the military don't like their ACOGs is because they're kind of constrained around it, because you need like 1.5 inches of eye relief, otherwise you can't get an entire sight picture out of it. And then you have to fully collapse your buttstock in order for you to, depending on your body and your neck and your gear setup, you might fully collapse it, but you might be optimal. You might have a harder time maneuvering the gun and manipulating it without the buttstock extended, right? So that's an example of something I grew to appreciate when I got to make my own decisions about what I'm shooting with. Another thing that I've grown to appreciate is stoppages, or the lack thereof. When I first got it, I was like, wow, this is a really snappy rifle. When I shoot it, it kicks hard, relative. Keep in mind, relative. It kicks, but essentially it was overgassed. I didn't realize how overgassed Daniel Defense rifles were, or why they were, until I started doing more research. And then when I've ran through thousands of rounds without a stoppage that wasn't induced by myself. The stoppages I mostly get were induced by myself, regardless of the brand. I actually mostly just train with a proprietary brand that my local gun store makes. They make their own battle packs of like 250. It's relatively a good buy. Cost per round, I don't know what it was at the moment. Having said that, I've shot PMC, Black Hills, what's some other ones? I've shot Winchester. Those are all good rounds that I've shot through it without any issues. Even steel-cased Wolf ammo, I've shot through it without problems. And then when I took that same steel-cased Wolf ammo, but in 308 and shot it through the rifle that I built, it really showed the difference in reliability that you can have with certain brands. And I think that's partly what you get for it. One thing that I complained about is essentially what you get when you first get the rifle out of the box. You get a foregrip that I wasn't really too fond of, even though I didn't have much experience with it. Once I swapped out the foregrip, and I could see how different foregrips or mini angle grips change your posture or your ability to manipulate the firearm, it just made me realize they could have done a little better. But that's just me nitpicking. Another thing is the pistol guard, the hand guard, the pistol grip, or the grip itself. It's not really optimized. It does hurt my wrist after any long duration shoots. It's just I want it to be more vertical, but I do like how grippy it is. So you know, a little drawback there. And then on top of the overgassing, once I added a suppressor on it, you know, well, for one, I removed the bird cage, and then I removed the flash. And then I added a 3-prong flash hider, which is now sitting beneath a Surefire RC2 in order to reduce signature. Excuse me. I did that to reduce the signature, but now the ejections are at the 1 o'clock or even 12. Sometimes it feels like. So those are more adjustments that need to be made on my behalf in order to make that firearm more customizable, more efficient. Because it is a pretty violent cycle once it's cycling through now. I did add a silent capture spring. The silent capture spring did kind of help in terms of felt recoil, in my opinion, with felt recoil, and it did make it to where it was a little bit more snappy when it launches the bolt forward, which was really good. So I might have to replace the bolt carrier group a little sooner because of how violent the action is, but you know, that's to be expected in terms of maintenance that you should expect with it. To be honest with you, I kind of wish you could play with the gas block, adjust it. You can't adjust it. It is a pain to replace the gas block on that specific firearm. At least for me, it's not really something I want to do. I did it before with a 300 with a 300 blackout rifle, and yeah, I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. I wish it was adjustable, but then again, I've seen, especially like I think with the Jackal, or I think it's the Jackal, where they could just, the adjustable ones, they snap shut, and or they all the way closed or they all the way open. Doesn't matter if you adjust it. So, you know, you get what you get. That's what I mostly wanted to go over with this M4V7 is in terms of what you get for the brand. If you were to be a brand new gun owner buying your first rifle and you walk into a gun store, it would not be a bad buy, in my opinion. You do need to expect to front more money. So actually, that's a good thing to segue into what you need to. This is something that you need to expect to purchase, because just purchasing an AR-15 isn't enough. You can't just stop there. There are other things. It's an expensive habit to get into guns. You will be purchasing not just the gun. You will purchase ammo. You will purchase targetry. You're going to be paying for range time unless you live somewhere that allows you to shoot outdoor in a safe manner, uninterrupted, hopefully. Not all of us are lucky like that. On top of that, the PPE, the ear protection, the eye protection, the gloves. At that point, so there comes a certain point where it's more creature comfort than a necessity. I would say the necessities would be obviously the firearm, you need the ammo, and you need PPE, and you need targetry. If you're going to just go outside and plink at trash or cans, I would say you're leaving a lot on the table. And what I mean by that is there is a lot of liability that happens if you discharge your firearm. Let's be honest about that. If you discharge a gun anywhere, you are legally responsible for anything that happens with that bullet, whether or not it's intentional. So I would say training is a necessity. I don't think anyone could really argue with that. I know that's saying the obvious part out loud. It's just, don't think that the purchase of that gun is where the investment stops. It's everything after that. So that's something I learned after I started building my 308 and my 300 Blackout. Those are different holds. You can't shoot the same targets when I'm talking about steel with that same ammo. The ammo cost is extremely different. The accessories don't actually, they're not interchangeable sometimes. You know, you need to get your different magazines for that. You need to separate them. And now my 300 Blackout magazines should got to be segregated from my 5.56 magazines. Lord forbid one of those gets swapped over. Not going to be a great time. And you know, that's a different barrel that you need to swap out if you shoot that much, which not a lot of people that I know do. But just keep in mind that once you start into this hobby, it gets really expensive really fast. And it is a perishable skill. I have gone a few months without shooting and walked onto the range and felt like I had two left hands. So all in all, it is a phenomenal firearm. It has phenomenal name recognition. There is a lot to be said for manufacturers like Palmetto State or BCM that are making a lot of guns, specifically for the public and not just going after military contracts, because those military contracts bring in big money for those manufacturers, but they're not necessarily meant for the everyday person. But like Palmetto State, when they make firearms, they're meant for us as end users in mind, and that's something we need to appreciate. You're not going to get all the same tolerances. You're not going to get the same QC. They do get a little bit of a break on QC because of that. They have to make so much more stuff and give it out to a larger group of people. So thank you for joining me. I do like making this content. It is very time consuming. It does take a lot of effort, as it is just me. I don't have crew, but I will make content as much as I can. I will make content of the guns and ammo that I think is relevant for people to see. I'm not someone that you can expect that's going to purchase the new gun every time a new gun comes out. There's just too much of that, too expensive, and I don't need the ATF knocking on my door. So thank you for joining me, and join me for the next one.